When you park your motorcycle at a restaurant or at a hotel, maybe at a friend's house outside in his driveway, do you ever get a little concerned that when you go back out, it's not going to be there? Well, I might have a solution for you.
This video is sponsored by Cruiseman's Garage Honda Goldwing Maintenance Video Series.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Cruiseman's Garage. Today we're going to talk about ways you can prevent or at least know if your motorcycle is being messed around with when you're not there to keep an eye on it. So today we're going to talk about the Monimoto 9 GPS tracker. Now I have reviewed Monimoto, I believe number 7 in the past. I think I may have reviewed a couple of different Monimoto models in the past. And this is their newest model. It's the Model 9. It's very compact. It's much smaller than it used to be. You can kind of see it here. It's pretty light. Also comes with a little key fob. We'll talk more about that little key fob. What I like about this Monimoto is that there's nothing, first of all, there's nothing to connect to your motorcycle. It has its own battery, so it doesn't rely on the motorcycle's power to drive its power. And it's portable. You could move it if you have multiple motorcycles and you're going to be taking a road trip on your BMW. You could put it in the BMW, and then next week you're on your Goldwing or your Kawasaki Versys or whatever you ride. It really doesn't matter. So you can move this from one bike to the next very easily. Now, I have found the initial setup to be very simple, very easy. I set this up out in the garage a couple of weeks ago, and I've been testing it off and on. Let's go take a look at what the setup process was like. The Monimoto 9 arrives in a very unassuming package, obviously not designed for retail display. I found the written instructions to be very well written and very easy to understand. It's a simple process. I actually kind of like this simple packaging. Sometimes I get products that are so expensively packaged, I wonder if I'm paying for packaging rather than a product. The Monimoto feels very high quality. I'm not sure why they don't go ahead and stick down the little USB tab. You have to peel off that adhesive backing and stick it to the back of the Monimoto. I'm not sure why they don't do that for you. And then this, of course, is the little key fob that comes in the kit. And then there are a couple of cable ties. So depending on your particular model of motorcycle, I suppose you might need to use these to secure the Monimoto under the seat or in a location maybe on your frame somewhere out of sight. The first thing we're going to do is activate the battery in the key fob. You'll have to have a little screwdriver to pry open the case. Now the battery's already installed. It's a 2032 battery, very common and easy to find, but you do need to pull out this little plastic tab so that it makes contact, and that will of course activate. Once you clip it back together, the key fob is now active and working. Next, we're going to fully charge the Monimoto through the USB-C port, but first I want to stick down this little tab that holds the rubber plug in place, keeps water from getting into that USB-C port. Not sure why they don't go ahead and put this on at the factory, but they don't. So I'm going to clean this surface with alcohol, make sure it's good and dry, and then we'll just peel off that adhesive backing and we'll tack it down. Of course, to charge the unit, we'll need to pull that plug out of the USB-C port, and you can see it there, and then we'll just plug it into a USB-C cable and begin charging the unit. Now, once you plug it into a power source, you'll notice the red light on the side will begin flashing, and that indicates that it's charging. Once that light is solid, it's fully charged. So while the unit is charging, I found that to be a good time to go ahead and download the app. Now, I'm using an iPhone 15 Pro, but they also make the app for an Android phone. I found the app for the iPhone to be very well designed, very easy to navigate. I used my Apple sign-in, and you make sure that you can find Bluetooth devices. You have to give it permission, which I did. And then in the next step, you have to have the Monimoto fully charged with the key fob nearby. So after about 2 hours, I'm fully charged. You can see the light is solid red. And I made sure to unplug it, and I set the key fob next to the Monimoto, just like it says to do in the instructions, and I did a scan, and it did find my Monimoto. And once you do that, it does go to a screen that allows you to give the unit a name, the Monimoto a name. Now, the reason they do this is because you could have multiple Monimotos on different vehicles. You might have one on a Goldwing, you might have one on a Harley, you might have one on your ATV, or even in your car, and each one would have its own unique name. And of course, then you enter your phone number. I've blocked mine out for obvious reasons. On the next screen, the Monimoto app is asking for permission to send you a text in case you register a new device, or if the SIM card is deactivated, or if for some reason they need to reach you for support issues. Now, when I set mine up, I got a message saying that I needed to update the firmware, so I did start that process, but about halfway through, I got an error message said that the device failed to connect. I restarted the app, and the second time through, it did connect, and it did update the firmware. The home screen of the app shows you the battery level on the Monimoto device, as well as the battery level on your key fob. If you only have one, if you have multiple key fobs, it will show you each one. And while we're on the subject of key fobs, each Monimoto device can be paired to up to 3 different key fobs. That way, different members of your family could drive or ride the same vehicle without you having to give them your key fob. Interestingly, each key fob does not have that limitation. It can be paired to any number of Monimoto devices. So if you have multiple vehicles, you can go from your car to your motorcycle to whatever vehicle without having to change key fobs. Now let's take a look at the settings in the Monimoto app. Click on the gear icon, and it takes you to the settings page where you can further click on the settings link. On the settings page, you can change the name of the Monimoto. You see I've got mine set to 2024 Goldwing. You can also change the profile from motorcycle to car or bicycle, and I'm not sure if that profile makes any difference in how the Monimoto performs. I couldn't find any information to suggest that it does. As far as the device regular status update, I've just left mine to 1 day, which was the default. I think you probably could change this to save on battery life if you have vehicles that you don't drive very often. Maybe they're not a daily driver, but I'm not sure about that. But that would make sense to me. Let's say you have a motorcycle, you store it for the winter, you could set that to 30 or 40 days. You can also adjust the motion sensitivity before an alarm is triggered. I've just left mine set to normal. You can also change your phone number, and the diagnostic logging, I'm assuming, is if you're having issues, you could use that to create a log that you could send to their support people. If we go back to the settings homepage and click on the key fobs link, you'll see the key fobs page, which shows you all of the key fobs paired to the Monimoto device. You can add or delete key fobs on this page, and you can also adjust the key fob signal range. Clicking on the help icon at the bottom of the screen will bring up some pretty extensive FAQs and help information. Let me tell you some of the things I really like about this Monimoto 9. Number one, I said it's small and compact, but I really like the fact that it has USB-C recharging. and it's supposed to hold a charge for up to 12 months. Now, it does have a built-in eSIM card, and you get 2 months of free, I'll call it cell service or eSIM service. Now, there's also the key fob, which we talked about earlier. And this little key fob, it uses I believe it's the 2032 battery, the little round battery. Very easy to replace. It should last at least a year. Now, you can keep this on your keychain, but it's probably not a good idea to keep it on a keychain with your motorcycle keys. Now, I have a smart key on my Honda Goldwing, so I do keep mine on the keychain with the key because that key is always in my pocket. But if you have a motorcycle where you put the key in the ignition, probably not a good idea to have the key fob on there because of the way this works. The way it works is basically the main unit is always looking for this key fob, and if it is within the same proximity as the key fob, it doesn't consider there's anything to be alerted about. Once you move out of the proximity, once this key fob is away from the main unit, the Monimoto unit, then it is basically armed at that point. When you come back into range, it disarms. So if you have the key fob on the motorcycle, on the keys of the motorcycle, and somebody steals your motorcycle with the key fob, it's not going to send an alarm. It's not going to detect that there's a problem because it doesn't know that you're riding the motorcycle or someone else is riding the motorcycle. Now, the other piece of the Monimoto puzzle is the app that works on your phone. And I found the app to be very elegant, very well designed. And let me tell you how I tested the Monimoto. Since it is a proximity system, I had this on the motorcycle on my Honda Goldwing in my example. It could be any motorcycle. It's very easy to hide. Every motorcycle is going to have a place under the seat or somewhere where you can hide this. So I have it in my trunk, and I left the key fob on my desk at home. And then one morning I went for a ride. So now the key fob is out of the proximity. And I'm thinking within probably 30 seconds, I received a phone call. In fact, I have Apple CarPlay on my Goldwing, and I saw the message come up that I had a phone call from Monimoto. And it left a voicemail. I didn't answer it, but it left a voicemail saying that it basically had detected an alert situation where the motorcycle was out of range of the key fob. So it worked. It did everything it's supposed to do. But what's even nicer is that you're able to see in the Monimoto app where your motorcycle is located. So I was able to go in through a GPS map and see where it was on a certain street or a location. Very, very cool, very nice. And so I think it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and I think that's very valuable. So in the 2 or 3 times I've tested this, leaving the key fob at home and going out, and as soon as I start moving the motorcycle, even if I'm backing out of the garage, before I even start the bike, I get a phone call from Monimoto alerting me that something's going on. So that is very good. So where do you keep the key fob? Well, like I said, I keep it with my smart key. But if you don't have a smart key and you have an ignition motorcycle with a key that goes in the ignition, you could put it on with your house keys if you keep them on a different keychain, or you could keep it in your motorcycle jacket. If you ride with a jacket all the time, you keep it in your jacket on you. As long as it's within range of the main unit, it's not going to send out an alert. So let's talk about the value of the Monimoto. The Monimoto system is $169. Now, they might be running some specials. You might find some discounted prices. And by the way, if you, at the end of this video, if you're interested in the Monimoto, I'll put a link in the description of the video where you can get more information. And $169 for the unit itself, which I don't think is bad given what it does. and you get 2 months of the eSIM service for free. Now, after that 2 months is up, it's $49 per year for the eSIM service. So you have to decide if knowing that your motorcycle is safe, or being alerted if somebody were to take the motorcycle or ride it without your knowledge. It could even be maybe you've got teenage kids and you're out of town and you want to know if somebody's moving that motorcycle, riding it without you there. It may not be a theft. It might be some kid you don't want on the bike. It would definitely let you know anytime. As long as you have the key fob with you, it's going to let you know because it will be armed. Now, this could also be used for an ATV. It could be used for a car. It could be used for any vehicle, anything that would be moved without your knowledge that you'd want to know about. Maybe your trailer. A lot of times I'll park my motorcycle at a hotel and I'll remove the trailer and I'll put the trailer off to the side and chain it up to a pole. If I have this inside the trailer, middle of the night, somebody starts moving that trailer, I'll know about it with the Monimoto because it'll send me an alert. Here's the elephant in the room. Is the Monimoto that much better than the AirTag? Well, a lot of you in the US use AirTags because a lot of people in the United States have iPhones. Androids are more popular in Asia and Europe, but in the United States, iPhones are pretty popular. So how does an AirTag compare to a Monimoto? Because this will basically, it is a tracker. It's not a GPS tracker like the Monimoto. It can give you a rough idea of where the AirTag is located if you go into the Find My app. The AirTag is definitely cheaper. You can buy a pack of 4 AirTags for about half the price of what the Monimoto costs. There's no monthly fee or annual fee, so you don't have to pay that $49 a year. But you do have to have an iPhone. So if you have an Android phone, the AirTag is almost worthless to you. So you'd have to have another system. Now the AirTag is smaller and easier to hide than the Monimoto, but the Monimoto is pretty small. I mean, they're both small. I don't think either one of them, I don't think that's a huge advantage to the AirTag. But the biggest disadvantage to the AirTag is there is no automatic alert. So if I have my iPhone with me and I'm driving away from the house, I keep these in our luggage for when we travel. And I usually can get about a mile and a half away, maybe 10 minutes later, 7 to 10 minutes later, I'll get a notification on my iPhone that the AirTag was left behind, or in this case, it might have been a piece of luggage. It'll say your luggage was left behind. But it's not instantaneous. With the Monimoto, it was almost instantaneous. I'm thinking that if you had your motorcycle parked, let's say at a hotel, where you could look out the window and you could see your motorcycle and you're asleep and at 2 a.m, you get an alert, you'd have enough time to get up, look out the window, and you'd see the person moving the motorcycle. It wouldn't be, 10 minutes later. It would be instantaneous. Within 30 seconds is when I was getting the phone call from Monimoto. Sorry for the interruption, but when I was in editing, I realized I left out one of the most important advantages of this Monimoto compared to an AirTag. The AirTag depends on proximity to another iPhone. So if somebody were to take your motorcycle, they could drive for 30 miles before they ever got within the proximity of another iPhone, or they could drive 100 miles or 500 miles. You just don't know. It only updates when it comes into contact with another iPhone. So the Monimoto, on the other hand, is using cell technology. As long as it is within range of a cell phone tower, it's going to be able to give you accurate GPS coordinates to where your motorcycle or whatever vehicle this is installed in. It's going to be able to let you know where it is. And it updates every 5 minutes. So it's constantly updating, looking for a cell tower to show you the GPS coordinates of where your vehicle is located. That is a huge advantage to a Monimoto as compared to an AirTag. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of this new Monimoto 9? I'm pretty impressed with it. And like I said before, if you're interested in it, check the links in the description of the video. I am a Monimoto affiliate, but you can also get these on Amazon. I'll put links to both in the description of the video. Hey, if you have any questions, also put them in the comments down below. And if you liked this video, if you enjoyed it, got some value out of it, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. I know it only takes a second or two, but it really, really does help my YouTube channel, helps the algorithm and the rankings and all that business. Thanks for joining me today, and I'm going to remind you what I always say at the end of every video: ride often, but ride safe.